Have you ever wondered what's hidden behind the tall walls of mansions in the elite neighborhoods of Rio de Janeiro, Buenos Aires, or Bogotá? Why do satellite maps blur specific plots along the coast of Punta del Este? Who rents private islands in the Caribbean months in advance, leaving no traces, no names? What kind of luxury, secrets, and shadows of power are hidden from the world in sand dunes or beneath the wide leaves of the jungle? What is a house that flies or a ghost mansion? Welcome to the closed-off world of South America's ultra-wealthy, where the line between business and politics, art and the mafia, is blurred over a glass of the rarest wine under the light of antique Venetian chandeliers. Let's begin by clarifying what ultra-wealthy actually means. Who are they? There are different kinds of rich people. There are very rich individuals whose wealth is measured in millions of dollars, and there are simply rich people whose annual income doesn't exceed $1 million. But we're not talking about just wealthy individuals, we're talking about those who own nearly 13% of all the world's wealth. Yes, there are still very few of these ultra-wealthy people, but their number is growing rapidly. In just the last few years, their population has increased by almost 6%. The question is, where do these people live, whose real lives have nothing in common with ours, whose world we can't even imagine? Let's try to dream a little, to put on an invisibility cloak and quietly peek into their world. You've surely been to palace museums of emperors and kings. You were probably amazed by their luxury and grandeur. But even imperial palaces pale in comparison to the stunning elite mansions that resemble a paradise hidden in the jungle. Oh, these are not just houses. These are fortresses, palaces, sometimes entire private ecosystems. Many of them you'll never find on maps or in travel guides, they're simply not marked. And on satellite images, some areas are intentionally blurry or unclear at the request of their owners through offshore legal firms. So where are these mysterious territories located? Most often, on hillsides with extraordinary panoramic views. For example, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil's second capital, or Medellín, the most beautiful city in Colombia. You can also find them on the coasts of Uruguay and Chile, on private islands, and Buenos Aires or Santiago, in guarded urbanized zones with private access. The main thing is that it must be a beautiful, quiet place, with strong security and far from public noise. Of course, these mansions are not designed by ordinary architects, but by very famous and talented stars in the world of architecture and design. Naturally, the construction features of these mansions are stunning in their sophistication and individuality. When money allows, why not build walls out of bulletproof glass with adjustable transparency, or add underground levels that include not only wine cellars for 10,000 bottles, but also private movie theaters, shooting ranges, galleries, and even simulated climate zones? There are floating homes and bunker houses that can operate autonomously for weeks if disconnected from outside infrastructure. In Chile and Brazil, eco-luxury complexes are becoming trendy, combining environmental care with luxury. These use environmentally friendly materials, and modern technology allows for minimal disruption to the natural balance. These are private villas integrated into the jungle, with natural waterfalls used as water supply features. One such private complex in Brazil is located on a cliff in the Joa district of Rio. It's so hidden behind foliage and security that even locals don't know who owns it. Rumors say it belongs to an oil tycoon whose name never appears in the media, but who controls a significant part of the Amazon's shadow economy. But we'll talk more about secrecy and security later. For now, let's take a closer look at the interiors of these luxurious structures. I hope you haven't forgotten that we're invisible. As soon as you open the doors to such palaces, you enter another world, a world where elegance and beauty intertwine with absolute power and limitless wealth. Onyx and black marble floors from Tasmania lit from below, panels made of rare animal skins, decor made from meteorite metals, doors inlaid with amber or lapis lazuli. And how could we forget the furniture? It's made exclusively to order. And, of course, only from well-known brands. One Uruguayan billionaire commissioned a dining table made from the wood of a 4,000-year-old fallen tree. Guests are also treated with special care. Usually, the guest zone is 600 square meters, with a separate kitchen, a winter garden, a jacuzzi, and an ocean view. In some homes, guests are accommodated in separate mini villas on the estate grounds, so they don't disturb the owner's privacy. But that's not even the most interesting part. The true pride of these mansions is their private collections. The walls are adorned with original works by Botero, Frida Kahlo, Bruegel. There are also pieces by contemporary Latin American artists whose names are only known in closed collector circles. Some rooms are dedicated entirely to a single theme, a set of gold Incan artifacts, historical weapons from the time of the Spanish conquistadors, personal archives of revolutionaries or the country's first presidents. Here's a fun fact. In the home of one Venezuelan oil magnate, there's a time room, a collection of more than 250 unique watches, including one that once belonged to Napoleon. And in northern Colombia, there's a mansion owned by descendants of old aristocracy. It's built on the site of an ancient temple complex. Its grounds cover more hectares than the nearest settlement. Guests are brought there only by helicopter. Inside, Carrara marble, Incan gold, and digital galleries with original works by Picasso and Miro. All of this requires protection and constant surveillance. Obviously, these homes are impenetrable fortresses. Security is at the level of presidential palaces. To access certain rooms, you have to go through a facial and retinal scan system. Nearby, in the basements or small annexes, there's a private security operations center, SOC, with a guard team, surveillance systems, drones, and signal interception technology. This is, so to speak, the standard gentleman's kit for wealthy homes. There are even private server rooms and cryptocurrency vaults. By the way, one Colombian financier has a mansion connected to his own private satellite communications network. No data ever goes through public channels. We'll talk more about money storage and elite collections later, but for now, let's move on. Want to hear about some truly incredible homes? Did you know there's a house that's never been photographed? It's sometimes called the Ghost Mansion. It's located in the Andean Valley of Peru. This mansion was built on an ancient sacred Inca site and uses an astronomical lighting system. Each window is positioned to allow a sunbeam to enter at a very specific time of year, casting light projections of ancient symbols onto the walls. Its owner is an anonymous digital billionaire from the crypto world. Another eccentric billionaire from Brazil prefers to live in the sky. He owns a flying mansion. A Boeing 747 long-range airliner, which can usually seat 300 to 600 passengers, was turned into his private home. The billionaire, who has remained anonymous, decided he'd be just fine living in it alone and had it redesigned as a residence. Simply mind-blowing. 3 years later, the flying mansion was ready, at a price of just $600 million. On board, it's as cozy and luxurious as any five-star hotel. Several dozen guests enjoy top-tier comfort and attention. There's a conference hall, a large living room, a gym, and an art studio. There's even a luxury lounge area where the owner and his guests relax during long flights. You almost forget you're high above sea level. How nice it must be to own a personal Boeing, fully converted into a functioning home. You can spend the night in a different country every day, without ever needing a permanent address. By the way, though the owner's identity remains a mystery, the interior design with its subtle Eastern flair is immediately noticeable. Here are some more unique properties we've managed to gather information on. Have you ever heard of Lake Titicaca, located on the border of Peru and Bolivia? It's considered one of the most mysterious bodies of water in the world, at 3,800 meters, 12,500 feet above sea level, in the heart of the Andes. It has preserved both natural beauty and the culture of the local Uros people, who live on man-made reed islands. That's exactly where you'll find an astonishing palace, built as an exact replica of one of the lost palaces of the Tiwanaku Empire. It hosts closed-door meetings of the political and business elites of Bolivia, Peru, and Paraguay. Before entering, guests must remove their shoes and undergo a cleansing ritual. There are also invisible houses, homes made entirely of reflective glass on the outside. To the average person unaware of its presence, finding such a house is practically impossible. It blends perfectly into the surrounding environment. One Argentine agrobaron owns such an invisible house. His mansion is built into the side of a hill, with mirrored facades that reflect the landscape and hide the property from prying eyes. The house is only visible from the air, and only under specific sunlight conditions. These are the types of homes ultra-wealthy South Americans prefer. These mansions are not just displays of wealth. They are psychological fortresses, symbols of dominance, a lifestyle beyond rules. They reflect a world where money creates a parallel reality inaccessible to most. But perhaps even more fascinating are the parties held in these places, events that never make it to Instagram. These aren't just fun celebrations. They're masquerades of power, where million-dollar deals are struck over glasses of champagne, and polite smiles often mask thinly veiled envy. It's impossible for a random person to get into such an event, and finding out what happens behind the high walls of these palaces is out of the question, but let's try to imagine it anyway, even if only in our minds. Picture the beautiful coast of Uruguay, with its soft sandy dunes and crystal-clear waters. Dusk falls, city streets grow quiet, park benches empty, and soon the little country falls asleep in anticipation of another workday. But at one villa, hidden from curious eyes by dense thickets, life is just beginning. Behind gates guarded by armed men lies another world, one where journalists, bloggers, and cameras are not allowed. No phones, no photos. Only invitations, personalized, often requiring a fingerprint to gain entry. Soft music and light drinks encourage conversation, and a cozy atmosphere helps people relax. But this isn't just an evening reception for welcome guests. This is a real-time performance where everything, from the music to the flower in your glass, is carefully curated to create the right mood, the perfect atmosphere, and opportunities. It's a demonstration of power and control. Some of these parties are held in the style of Caribbean masquerades or Incan rituals, with era-appropriate clothing, actors, and musicians brought in from across the continent. But this isn't just about aesthetic. It's a coded language where entertainment scenes act out real-life politics, influence deals, and capital negotiations. For instance, at one such party in Colombia, the Minister of Defense, masked, danced with the head of the country's largest export cartel, also masked. Their hands met in a choreographed scene, but the meaning was clear to everyone present. A major agreement had just been sealed. Right there, on the polished parquet floor. And in Mendoza, one of Argentina's cities, such a gathering took place in a mountaintop winery. 40 guests sat at round tables, surrounded by flowing water. The sounds of soft waves merged with live music, cello and piano. In the center of the hall, a woman recited poetry by Pablo Neruda. But the real action was happening behind the scenes. Michelin-starred chefs were preparing dishes from an extinct species of fish, grown using cloning technology. Waiters glided like shadows between the guests, pouring expensive drinks. And the guests themselves were finalizing a $250 million deal, a transnational contract for lithium deposits. One of those present had flown in from the other side of the world just for a 2-hour personal conversation with the owner of the mines in Bolivia. It should be added that the wine on the table was special, made from rare grape varieties. This kind of wine is not for sale, it's only kept in family cellars, waiting for the right moment. And today, its time had come. Only 100 bottles were served at the table, and each one was a gift for a future ally. But even these are not the most powerful meetings. Do you know what initiation means? It's a rite of passage, a ritual of transition from one status to another. It's an induction into secret, sometimes mystical, societies. Well, in South America, there are also such closed clubs and vows of silence, and some parties serve as stages for initiation rituals. Entry is granted only after a long and thorough vetting of loyalty and trust. That means years of cooperation, confidential deals, or, as they say, crises endured together. At such private gatherings, global issues are decided, ones that influence not only regional politics and economics but entire countries. Here's an interesting fact. According to some sources, once a year, a group called the Phoenix Bird Club gathers at a private estate in Brazil. It's an elite society made up of 21 families. You won't find any info about this club online, it's kept strictly secret. And those who have been there won't tell you anything either. Before entering, guests sign a complete silence agreement and lock their phones in a safe, with the code handed out only after the evening ends. At this kind of family dinner, the guests discuss unofficial strategies for influencing the Latin American economy, dual campaign financing, asset redistribution during regime change, public opinion manipulation strategies. This club also plays a significant role in supporting education, healthcare, and culture in the region. So what does that mean? That important decisions affecting the development of countries, and sometimes the entire continent, are not made at negotiation tables in government offices or in the boardrooms of famous companies, but in soft, cozy armchairs over a glass of outrageously expensive wine, under the sound of live music and candlelight. Pipeline construction deals, promoting the right presidential candidate, port privatization, new transnational schemes for exporting raw materials, all of it starts at intimate, closed-door parties. Contracts are not signed here, that comes later, on the official level, under the flashes of journalists' cameras. Here, agreements are sealed through glances, gestures, and hints. And a single toast can change the fate of a company, while a new affection may shift the future of an entire industry. So do all ultra-wealthy parties exist only to solve global issues? Of course not. In most cases, the purpose of such gatherings is eccentric leisure, to amaze others and indulge themselves in exotic experiences that might seem like fiction. But for certain people, this is the real world. And most importantly, it's a way to remind others of their status. In Bolivia, one party was held in a flooded salt mine, underground, by candlelight. Guests danced on platforms floating in salt water. One of them, a former president. He gave a toast in Quechua, the native language of the South American indigenous people, and the most widely spoken among them. Next to him sat former rebels and international investors. In Paraguay, there was a party on a floating hotel, built just for one day on the Parana River. It vanished from the water as soon as the event ended. The menu included dishes made from endangered Amazonian fish and handmade chocolate from cocoa beans grown on the host's family plantations. In Chile, for a secret celebration, an entire ski resort was rented for 24 hours. Instead of the usual fun, ski runs and snowboarding, there was a night helicopter ascent into the mountains, champagne at 13,000 feet, and an outdoor movie screening projected on the snowy wall of a glacier. That's why South America's ultra-rich throw these parties. They want to enjoy life, while controlling every part of it. And while someone is bragging online about a luxury beach or a fancy dinner, in private halls with no cameras, the fate of entire regions is being decided. But no one will ever know about it, because only those who know how to stay silent are allowed in. But if no one says anything, how does the world still know that there are people whose wealth is beyond measure? And what's more important to such a person, to own a palace, or to make sure no one even knows it belongs to them? When we talk about rich people, we imagine luxury yachts, mansions, and diamonds. But the most amazing thing is not what they buy or own, but how they hide their wealth from the world. So where are the billions hidden, the ones you'll never hear about on the news, never read about online? And why can't even the most advanced agencies fully track their assets? Yes, these wealthy individuals live in stunning homes, throw unusual parties, but their real wealth is rarely shown off. It's usually not in plain sight. Hidden in layers of offshore structures, and masterpieces of art, and land parcels, and digital-only assets, it grows year after year, and sometimes day by day. In this world, money doesn't sit in bank accounts. It lives in things that are nearly impossible to price, because they're worth millions, or sometimes, are priceless. So where do the ultra-rich of South America store their wealth? Let's begin with the classic, and insanely complicated, offshore scheme, like a maze with no windows. Let's say that a mansion in Bogotá could be registered to a company with an address in the Cayman Islands, which is owned by a trust in Liechtenstein, controlled by a fund in Panama, behind which stands a law firm in London. Confused? Exactly. That's the whole point. It's all deliberately murky so no one can ever say for sure who the real owner is. So, what is an offshore, anyway? Literally from English, it means off the shore, that is, a country or region offering favorable conditions for foreign companies to register and do business. In offshore zones, taxes are lower and government oversight is minimal, but the most important part is the high level of information privacy. That's exactly what ultra-rich people from all over the world, especially in South America, take advantage of. Most often, to keep things confidential and avoid taxes. The ultra-rich create multi-layered networks of companies that, on paper, own one another. For example, owning a single yacht might involve 12 legal entities in 5 different jurisdictions. And if a court sends a request, it hits a wall of confidentiality, the true owner listed under some code of letters and numbers. There are rumors that one Brazilian billionaire owns 3 airports but officially has no companies in his name. Everything is held through offshore chains registered under his staff. Another popular trend is keeping money not in banks, but in cryptocurrency. In Argentina and Venezuela, wealthy citizens are moving their assets en masse into Bitcoin and stablecoins to protect against inflation. It's more convenient to store savings this way in today's world, especially in countries with unstable political situations. There are private crypto wallets, storage devices where millions of dollars sit on USB flash drives kept in Swiss vaults or even hidden in personal libraries. These wallets give full control over digital assets. And for transactions, you don't need intermediaries, like exchanges or brokers, just access to private keys, secret codes that unlock the crypto wallet. For instance, one Uruguayan investor keeps his entire fortune, about $180 million, in 3 private wallets protected by a 24-word passphrase that he supposedly memorized and keeps only in his head. Some companies even accept payments in crypto to simplify deals and stay off financial radars. Digital currency is the future, but we shouldn't forget the past, especially the distant one, and the love of beauty. One of the most elegant ways to preserve wealth is investing in art. A painting on the wall can be worth more than the entire apartment complex outside the window. And most importantly, it's not taxed until it's sold, and often doesn't need to be declared at all. Both ancient and modern art are highly valued. Let's say, in Colombia, one collector owns Renaissance masterpieces hidden in a bunker designed to look like a gallery. And in Chile, investing in modern art has become trendy. Latin American artists' paintings suddenly skyrocket in price. From $20,000 to $1.5 million in just 1 year. Often, art objects are registered to foundations, legal entities that don't disclose who actually owns the masterpiece. A painting might travel to global exhibitions but belong to no one. They say one of the major political donors in Peru stored $40 million worth of paintings in a wine cellar beneath a fake floor. How true that is, you be the judge. And can you guess what's the most underdiscussed yet powerful asset? Just like many years ago, it's land. Wealthy people are buying up hundreds of thousands of hectares in the jungles, plains, and mountains of South America, not just to build or grow things. Often, land is used as a way to legalize income. Buy a plot for $100,000, launch a reforestation and conservation project, and you're already writing off millions. In Paraguay, over 30% of arable land is controlled by just 5 families. That's power. And in Argentina, certain family clans buy up land along strategic rivers to control future infrastructure. And private geological surveys are part of this too. In Bolivia, one ultra-rich entrepreneur bought a plot in the Amazon jungle that no one wanted. But over time, it turned out there were rare earth minerals there, used in chip production. But this businessman knew that long before. Who told him? That's anyone's guess. Either way, 3 years later, his forest was worth 120 times more. The most interesting part is that even tax authorities don't always know where a person's assets end. Sometimes, such a businessman might not even have a bank account, but still own $500 million in assets. Or officially own no real estate, but live in a mansion registered to a foundation created by his lawyer. And here's the kicker. Some people have never appeared on the Forbes list but can lend money to governments. So what does that tell us? The ultra-rich of South America, with their massive profits and billion-dollar fortunes, hide them very carefully. They know that true wealth isn't what's seen, it's what can't be traced. Their strategy isn't showing off, but disappearing into paperwork, offshore networks, and digital codes. And the more money they have, the quieter it gets. Because the most powerful fortunes aren't the ones on the cover of Forbes. They're the ones no one even knows about. Paradoxical? And you know, South America is a continent of harsh social contrasts and paradoxes. While some live in golden palaces, others live in favelas, slums on mountain slopes with no access to clean water. And that creates sharp social and political conflict. In Brazil, the level of social inequality is so high that in Sao Paulo, for example, you can drive from a luxury neighborhood to the slums in just 7 minutes. And in the capital of the country, there's a district known for its elite apartments costing upwards of $2 million. Right next to it is a neighborhood where houses don't even have centralized sewage systems, and the crime rate is off the charts. But these two worlds are separated by just a couple of blocks and a single hill. And here's the paradox. From the windows of luxury apartments, you can see poverty, but wealthy residents have private helipads so they don't have to go down to the streets. In Colombia, a country that once led the world in illegal drug trade, gated communities are now being built, with pools, golf courses, and their own infrastructure. And just 10 minutes away, there are communes where children can't go to school because of street fights. Interesting fact. One billionaire built himself a villa on a hill overlooking the city and put up a 3-meter wall with signal jamming systems to completely isolate himself from the outside world. In Argentina, there's a province with luxurious vineyards. Guests stay among the grapevines in boutique hotels, enjoying wine tastings with bottles priced at $1,000 each. At the same time, in those same provinces, there are regular protests by teachers and doctors who haven't been paid in months. Private jets land at wine ranches, while nearby villages have no doctors or paved roads. It's worth adding that billionaires do invest in charity. But don't be fooled. They do it mainly to control public opinion. Yes, they fund schools, museums, scholarships, but they alone decide which books children will read, which exhibitions will be held, who will be celebrated, and who will be forgotten. That's how it works in almost every country on the continent. Chile, Peru, Paraguay, Bolivia. The ultra-rich live like it's the digital future, while the poor live like it's the 19th century. However, no matter how well the elite live, they have their own challenges and fears. Being rich in South America doesn't just mean living in luxury, it also means living in constant tension. Kidnappings, extortion, political conflict, all of it prevents the wealthy from ever feeling truly at peace. They have to take measures to protect themselves and their families. Some build private armies. Others have evacuation systems, with private jets on standby 24/7. There's a well-known story of a Chilean billionaire who had to hide in the Andes for months due to threats from a radical group. All of this reminds us that even wealth doesn't guarantee peace of mind. And yet, billionaires in South America have a huge influence on how society develops. Think about it. Among them are architects and politicians, economists and cultural figures. They're behind the founding of political parties, the election of presidents, the setting of fashion trends, and even the direction of scientific research. Their influence isn't always visible, but it's felt everywhere, from magazine covers to agricultural laws, from architectural trends to export tariffs. The secret life of the ultra-rich in South America is a vast world hidden from the public eye. Behind the luxury mansions, private parties, and complex financial schemes lies not just wealth, but power, influence, and total anonymity. These people live by their own rules, sometimes invisibly steering entire industries and even countries. And this isn't just a life of comfort. It's a special kind of game, where the stakes are high and the rules are written behind closed doors. It's a world where not all the gold is in plain sight, not all power is official, and not all stories are told. Are you sure you know who really runs your country? Maybe they're nearby, just never in the news? Their luxury might be hidden behind tall walls or behind billboards advertising your favorite products. Their paintings might be on display at exhibitions in your city, and your car might be driving on their roads. Too bad we'll never know, because invisibility cloaks are fiction, but high politics is hidden from ordinary people. Or maybe that's for the best.